Hello, and welcome. It's good to have you here, wherever you are, in whatever quiet corner of the evening or early morning you found yourself. Tonight, we're going to wander together through something gentle and unhurried, something that lives where the ocean meets curiosity, where waves fold over themselves in endless rhythm, and creatures move through the water with a kind of grace that asks nothing of us but to watch, to listen, and to let ourselves be still. We're going to spend time with seals, those soft-eyed animals who seem to understand something about playfulness that we sometimes forget, who dive and surface and rest on rocks worn smooth by 10,000 tides, who exist in a world both alien and familiar, both distant and surprisingly close to our own need for comfort, for rest, for the simple pleasure of moving through space without urgency. You can let your shoulders settle, if you'd like. There's no hurry here, no need to hold anything tightly. Your breathing can slow, finding its own rhythm, the way water finds its level, the way the ocean breathes in and out against the shore, patient and endless. Perhaps you've come to the end of a long day, or you're seeking a quiet place to let your thoughts untangle themselves. Maybe you're tired, the kind of tired that sits behind your eyes and makes the world feel a little too bright, a little too loud. Or maybe you're simply looking for something soft to rest your attention on, something that won't demand anything from you, something that will simply unfold at its own pace while you listen, or drift, or find yourself somewhere between waking and sleep. All of that is welcome here. There's no wrong way to be present for this. No wrong way to let these ideas move through your mind like water moving through water, without resistance, without effort. If these journeys bring you comfort, you're welcome to return anytime. There will always be more to explore, more quiet corners of the natural world to wander through together, more moments of discovery that ask only that we pay attention, gently, without grasping. So let's begin slowly, with something simple and true. Seals are among the most playful creatures in the ocean, and their playfulness is not a trivial thing, not a footnote to their existence, but woven into the very fabric of how they learn, how they bond, how they navigate a world that is at once their home and a constant challenge. When you watch a seal in the water, truly watch it, you notice first how different it is from the awkward, endearing creature it becomes on land. On a beach or a rocky outcrop, a seal moves with a kind of determined shuffle, pulling itself forward with its front flippers, its body rippling in waves of effort, its face often holding an expression that seems almost apologetic, as if it knows it wasn't designed for this terrestrial struggle. But the moment it slips back into the water, everything changes. The awkwardness vanishes. The body that seemed heavy and ungainly becomes a study in fluid motion, in effortless grace. Seals are built for the ocean in ways that become obvious only when you see them in their element, spiraling through kelp forests, gliding along the seafloor, surfacing with barely a ripple to mark their passage. Their bodies are shaped by millions of years of adaptation, each feature a response to the specific demands of a life lived between two worlds. A seal's body is streamlined, torpedo-shaped, designed to move through water with minimal resistance. Their front flippers, which seem so clumsy on land, are in fact highly flexible and remarkably strong, capable of precise movements that allow them to steer, to slow down, to reach out and touch things with a delicacy that surprises anyone who's watched them investigate an object, turning it over and over with what looks very much like curiosity. Their hind flippers, fused together in many species to form a tail-like structure, provide powerful propulsion, sweeping back and forth in a motion that's almost hypnotic to watch, a rhythm that seems to echo the rhythm of the waves themselves. Beneath their skin lies a thick layer of blubber, an insulating blanket that could be several inches thick, depending on the species and the season. This blubber serves multiple purposes, all of them essential to a seal's survival. It keeps them warm in water that would quickly kill an unprotected human, water that in some parts of their range hovers just above freezing year-round. It provides buoyancy, helping them float effortlessly when they rest at the surface, breathing slowly, eyes half closed, looking for all the world like they're meditating on the nature of existence. And it serves as an energy reserve, a stored resource they can draw on during long fasting periods, during breeding seasons when they may not eat for weeks, during molts when they haul out on land and wait for their old fur to fall away and new fur to grow in, a process that leaves them vulnerable and requires them to stay still, to simply endure. Their fur itself is a marvel of engineering, though not all seals have the same relationship with it. Most seals have relatively short, coarse fur that provides some insulation but relies primarily on blubber for warmth. The fur traps a thin layer of water against their skin, and their body heat warms this water, creating an additional buffer against the cold. When they emerge from the ocean, water streams off them, and in certain light you can see the individual hairs, each one sleek and perfectly aligned, creating a surface that sheds water almost as quickly as it's acquired. Some seals, particularly the fur seals and sea lions, have a denser undercoat beneath their outer guard hairs, a soft layer that provides additional insulation and gives them a slightly fluffier appearance when dry. Though even this is nothing compared to the extraordinary fur of sea otters, those other marine mammals who've taken a different evolutionary path, who rely almost entirely on their fur for warmth and must spend hours each day grooming it, maintaining its insulating properties with a dedication that borders on obsessive. A seal's face is perhaps its most expressive feature, and it's here that we begin to see hints of the intelligence and emotional complexity that characterize these animals. Their eyes are large, dark, and deeply adapted to the low-light conditions of the ocean depths. On land, in bright sunlight, their pupils contract to tiny pinpoints, but underwater, in the dim green-blue twilight of the deeper zones, their pupils expand to capture every available photon of light. The eyes themselves are nearly spherical, a shape that helps them focus both in air and in water, two mediums with very different optical properties. When you look into a seal's eyes, there's often a moment of connection, a sense that something is looking back at you, assessing you, wondering about you with the same curiosity you're directing at it. This is not anthropomorphism run wild. Studies have shown that seals are indeed highly intelligent, capable of learning complex tasks, of remembering individuals, of solving problems that require multiple steps and a degree of planning. Their whiskers, or vibrissae, are another sensory marvel, and they play a crucial role in how seals perceive and navigate their underwater world. Each whisker is embedded in a follicle rich with nerve endings, making them exquisitely sensitive to vibrations and pressure changes in the water. A seal can detect the wake left by a fish that swam past seconds earlier, can follow these hydrodynamic trails through complete darkness, can distinguish between different shapes and sizes of objects based solely on the patterns of water movement they create. Researchers have tested this ability in controlled conditions, blindfolding seals and asking them to follow paths marked only by subtle disturbances in the water. And the seals navigate these challenges with remarkable accuracy, their whiskers constantly moving, sweeping back and forth, gathering information that their brains process into a kind of tactile map of their surroundings. When seals play, they're not just passing time or burning off excess energy, though both of those things may be happening. Play serves multiple functions in seal society, particularly among younger animals, but continuing throughout their lives. Young seal pups engage in play fighting, wrestling with each other on beaches, nipping at flippers, rolling over and over in a tangle of bodies that looks chaotic, but is actually quite structured, with rules and boundaries that the pups seem to understand instinctively. These play fights teach them important skills they'll need as adults: how to defend themselves, how to establish dominance without causing serious injury, how to read the body language and intentions of other seals. A pup that plays frequently tends to develop better coordination, better social skills, and better problem-solving abilities than one that doesn't, suggesting that play is not just fun, but fundamentally important to healthy development. In the water, play takes on different forms, and here we see some of the most joyful and relaxing behaviors in the entire animal kingdom. Seals surf. They genuinely, deliberately surf, seeking out waves and riding them towards shore, then swimming back out to catch another one, repeating the process over and over with no apparent purpose other than enjoyment. They've been observed doing this in locations around the world, from the cold waters of the Antarctic to the more temperate zones of California and Australia. They position themselves just ahead of a breaking wave, adjust their body angle to stay in the sweet spot where the wave's energy propels them forward, and ride it in, sometimes spinning as they go, sometimes adding little flourishes, movements that serve no survival purpose, but seem to exist purely for the pleasure of the thing itself. They play with objects, too, a behavior that scientists call object play, and it's surprisingly common across different seal species. A seal might find a piece of kelp and spend 20 minutes tossing it in the air, catching it, wrapping it around its body, unwrapping it, investigating every aspect of this object that has no food value, no practical use, but is apparently interesting enough to warrant sustained attention. They play with rocks, with shells, with pieces of driftwood, with anything that catches their interest. In some cases, this object play might have a learning component, helping young seals develop the motor skills they'll need for hunting. But often it seems to be purely recreational, a way of engaging with a world that goes beyond mere survival. Social play is equally important, and it's here that we see the depth of seal relationships, the bonds that form between individuals and persist over time. Seals recognize each other as individuals, remember past interactions, and form preferences for certain companions over others. Two seals who are friends, if we can use that word without too much anthropomorphic baggage, will seek each other out, will play together more frequently than they play with others, will rest near each other on crowded beaches, will sometimes even hunt cooperatively, though most seals are solitary hunters. They chase each other through the water in elaborate games of tag, spiraling around kelp stalks, darting through narrow channels between rocks, their movements perfectly synchronized, each animal anticipating the other's next move with a precision that speaks to deep familiarity. The playfulness of seals extends to their interactions with other species, and some of the most remarkable observations come from encounters between seals and humans. Divers working in seal habitats often report that seals approach them with apparent curiosity, circling around them, sometimes gently tugging on fins or camera equipment, sometimes bringing objects to show them, a behavior that mirrors the way dolphins sometimes interact with humans. These interactions are gentle, exploratory, and they suggest that seals view humans not as threats or as food sources, but as interesting anomalies, things to be investigated and perhaps played with. There are documented cases of seals repeatedly visiting the same divers, recognizing them across multiple encounters, suggesting a level of individual recognition and memory that's quite sophisticated. One of the most calming aspects of seal behavior is their resting pattern, particularly the way they rest at the surface of the water in a position researchers call bottling. A seal will float vertically in the water, with just its nose breaking the surface, the rest of its body hanging down into the depths like a bottle floating upright. In this position, they can breathe while remaining almost completely submerged, minimizing heat loss and staying relatively hidden from predators. They can maintain this position for extended periods, drifting with the current, their breathing slow and regular, their bodies completely relaxed. Watching a seal bottle is itself a meditative experience. There's something profoundly peaceful about seeing an animal so completely at rest, so trusting in its ability to simply float, to simply be, without effort or struggle. Seals also haul out onto land or ice to rest. and these hauling out sites become temporary communities, gathering places where dozens or even hundreds of seals might congregate. The reasons for hauling out are multiple. They rest more efficiently out of the water, where they don't have to expend energy maintaining their position or body temperature. They molt on land, shedding old fur and growing new. They give birth and nurse their pups on land, where the young are safer from aquatic predators. And they simply seem to enjoy the social aspect of it, the presence of other seals, the collective warmth of bodies pressed together on a cold day. These hauling out sites have a particular atmosphere, a kind of drowsy communal energy. Most of the seals are sleeping or dozing, their bodies arranged in loose clusters, occasionally shifting position, occasionally lifting their heads to look around before settling back down. The sounds are gentle, breathing, the occasional sneeze or cough, the soft vocalizations that seals make to communicate with each other, low groans and murmurs that carry across the beach like a conversation in a language we don't quite understand but can somehow still appreciate. The vocalizations of seals are more complex and varied than most people realize, and different species have different vocal repertoires, different ways of expressing themselves. Harbor seals, for instance, produce a wide range of underwater sounds: clicks, growls, moans, and what researchers describe as roars. Though these are not the aggressive roars of lions, but something softer, more melodic, almost song-like. These vocalizations serve various purposes. Males vocalize to attract females during breeding season. Mothers and pups call to each other to maintain contact in crowded colonies. Seals vocalize during social interactions, possibly to establish dominance or to express submission or simply to maintain social bonds. Some of these vocalizations are quite beautiful, with a haunting quality that carries through the water, and divers who've heard seals singing underwater often describe it as one of the most memorable experiences of their lives. A reminder that the ocean is full of voices, full of communication happening constantly in frequencies and patterns we're only beginning to understand. Leopard seals, those powerful predators of the Antarctic, have a particularly complex vocal repertoire, and their calls can be heard for miles underwater. Low-frequency sounds that travel vast distances through the cold polar waters. During breeding season, male leopard seals sing, producing long, elaborate sequences of calls that can last for hours, repeated over and over with variations, like a jazz musician improvising on a theme. These songs may serve to attract females, to warn off rival males, or perhaps to establish territory, though the exact purpose is still being studied. What's clear is that these are not simple, instinctive calls, but complex, learned behaviors that vary between individuals and even between different populations, suggesting a degree of cultural transmission, of knowledge passed from one generation to the next through learning and imitation rather than through genetic programming alone. The breathing of seals is another aspect of their biology that invites calm observation. Unlike humans, who breathe automatically without thinking about it, seals are conscious breathers. Each breath is a deliberate act, a decision to surface and inhale. This is true of all marine mammals, and it's one of the fundamental differences between them and terrestrial animals. A seal cannot breathe while asleep in the way we do. If it loses consciousness underwater, it will drown. So seals have evolved a different relationship with sleep, a different way of managing the competing demands of rest and respiration. They sleep in short bursts, often at the surface, waking periodically to breathe, then sinking back into sleep. Some species can sleep with one half of their brain at a time, a phenomenon called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep, allowing one hemisphere to rest while the other remains alert enough to manage breathing and watch for threats. This is the same adaptation that dolphins and whales use, and it represents a fascinating solution to the problem of being a conscious breather in an environment where you can't breathe. When a seal dives, It goes through a series of physiological changes, collectively known as the dive response, a suite of adaptations that allow it to hold its breath for extended periods and dive to remarkable depths. As soon as a seal's face enters the water, its heart rate drops dramatically, sometimes falling to just 10 or 15 beats per minute from a resting rate of perhaps 60 or 80. This bradycardia, this slowing of the heart, reduces oxygen consumption, allowing the seal to make its stored oxygen last longer. At the same time, blood flow is redirected away from the periphery, away from muscles and skin, and concentrated in the vital organs: the brain, the heart, the lungs. The seal's spleen contracts, releasing stored red blood cells into the circulation, increasing the blood's oxygen-carrying capacity. The seal's metabolism shifts, and its muscles begin to rely more heavily on anaerobic respiration, burning fuel without oxygen and tolerating the buildup of lactic acid that would quickly exhaust a terrestrial animal. Different seal species dive to different depths and for different durations, depending on their size, their prey, and their specific adaptations. Harbor seals typically dive to depths of around 300 feet and stay down for about 5 to 10 minutes, though they're capable of much longer and deeper dives when necessary. Weddell seals, which hunt beneath the Antarctic ice, routinely dive to depths of over 1,000 feet and can stay submerged for over an hour, navigating through a dark, frigid world where the pressure would crush an unprotected human. Elephant seals, the largest of the true seals, are the champions of deep diving among pinnipeds, regularly reaching depths of over a mile and holding their breath for up to 2 hours. At these depths, the pressure is immense, over 2,000 pounds per square inch, and yet elephant seals navigate this environment with apparent ease, hunting for squid and fish in the deep scattering layer, that zone of the ocean where countless small creatures rise and fall with the daily cycle, moving toward the surface at night to feed and sinking back into the depths during the day to avoid predators. The ability to dive so deep and stay down so long requires more than just the dive response. It requires specialized anatomy and physiology throughout the seal's body. A seal's lungs are proportionally smaller than ours, and they collapse under pressure as the seal descends, forcing air into the upper airways where gas exchange doesn't occur, reducing the amount of nitrogen that dissolves into the blood, and thus reducing the risk of decompression sickness, the bends, that affliction that strikes human divers who ascend too quickly. A seal's blood has a higher concentration of hemoglobin than ours, allowing it to carry more oxygen per unit volume. Its muscles contain high concentrations of myoglobin, a protein that stores oxygen within the muscle tissue itself, giving seal meat its characteristically dark color and providing a reserve of oxygen that can be drawn on during long dives when the blood supply is restricted. When a seal surfaces after a deep dive, it breathes rapidly for a few minutes, flushing carbon dioxide from its system and replenishing its oxygen stores. Then it dives again and again in a cycle that can continue for hours or even days. Elephant seals spend most of their lives at sea, coming to land only to breed and molt. And during their time at sea, they're almost constantly diving, following a pattern of deep foraging dives interspersed with brief surface intervals, sleeping in short bursts between dives, living in a rhythm dictated by the need to find food and the physiological constraints of being an air-breathing animal in an underwater world. The food that seals seek varies widely depending on the species and the habitat, but most seals are carnivorous, feeding on fish, squid, crustaceans, and in some cases other marine mammals. Harbor seals eat a variety of fish, including herring, anchovy, cod, and flatfish, catching them with quick lunges, their jaws snapping shut on prey that often has no warning of the attack. Seals don't chew their food. Their teeth are designed for gripping and tearing, not for grinding. So they either swallow small prey whole or tear larger prey into chunks that can be swallowed. They hunt primarily by sight in well-lit waters, but they can also hunt in complete darkness using their whiskers to detect prey, a useful adaptation for species that hunt at night or in the murky waters of estuaries and bays. The world beneath the surface holds patterns you might not expect. When a seal dives deep, its body performs a quiet choreography of survival that has been refined over millions of years. The heart rate slows dramatically, sometimes dropping from over 100 beats per minute down to just 10 or 15. Blood flow redirects away from the extremities and toward the vital organs, the brain and heart receiving priority in this underwater economy of oxygen. The muscles hold reserves of myoglobin, a protein that stores oxygen within the tissue itself, allowing the seal to remain submerged far longer than you might imagine possible for a mammal of its size. This is not a frantic holding of breath. It is a calm, practiced efficiency. The seal's body knows this rhythm, as well as you know the rhythm of your own walking. There is no panic in the descent, no struggle against the pressure. The lungs collapse gently under the weight of the water, preventing nitrogen from dissolving into the bloodstream and avoiding the painful condition human divers call the bends. The seal moves through depth as if it were made for it, because it was, and when the seal surfaces, the first breath comes smooth and measured. The nostrils, which sealed shut underwater, open at the top of the head, allowing the animal to breathe while most of its body remains submerged. This breath is not gasping or desperate. It is simply the continuation of a cycle, an exchange of gases that happens with the same ease as the tide moving in and out along the shore. There is something deeply calming in watching this process, in understanding that the seal's body has solved the puzzle of the ocean through adaptation rather than force. The seal does not fight the water. It moves with it, through it, as part of it. Further still, seals possess a remarkable ability to sleep in the ocean itself. Some species sleep while floating at the surface, one nostril above the waterline, the body drifting in gentle circles. Others rest on the seafloor in shallow waters, rising every few minutes to take a breath before sinking back down into sleep. This is called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep in some marine mammals, though in seals the pattern is slightly different. They can enter true sleep, both hemispheres of the brain resting, but only for short intervals, waking just enough to breathe before slipping back under the surface of consciousness. Imagine that for a moment. The seal's rest is woven into the rhythm of breathing, the two inseparable, the body managing both without conscious thought. It is a kind of trust in the body's own wisdom, a surrender to the patterns that have kept the species alive for so long. On land, seals sleep more deeply. Hauled out on rocks or beaches, they can afford to let both sides of the brain rest fully, their breathing no longer requiring the coordination of surfacing. They lie in groups, bodies pressed together, sharing warmth and the comfort of proximity. The collective breathing of a seal colony creates a soft, rhythmic sound, a living metronome of inhalations and exhalations that blends with the sound of the waves. And in these groups, there is playfulness even in rest. Young seals wriggle and shift, draping flippers over one another, nuzzling into the warmth of adults. They vocalize softly, little murmurs and grunts that seem to communicate contentment. The adults tolerate this with what can only be described as patience, occasionally shifting to accommodate a restless pup, but never with irritation. There is a gentleness in these interactions, a social fabric that holds the group together. Seals also engage in what researchers call jug handling, a behavior observed in several species. The seal lies on its back in the water, flippers folded across its chest or belly, looking for all the world like a floating jug. This position allows the seal to rest while staying afloat, conserving energy between dives. It is a posture of complete relaxation, the body trusting the water to hold it, the face often turned toward the sky. There is something almost meditative about this image. The seal, buoyant and still, rocking gently with the motion of the sea. No urgency, no destination, just presence. Seals are also known to interact with other species in ways that suggest curiosity rather than predation or fear. Divers have reported seals approaching them, circling slowly, sometimes reaching out to touch a hand or a flipper with their own. These encounters are gentle, exploratory. The seal seems to be investigating, trying to understand what this strange, bubble-blowing creature might be. There is no aggression in these moments, only a kind of open wonder. In some regions, seals have been observed playing with sea turtles, following them through the water, occasionally nudging them as if inviting interaction. The turtles, for their part, seem unbothered, continuing their slow, steady swimming while the seal loops and dives around them. It is play without purpose, interaction for its own sake. And then there are the moments when seals interact with dolphins. These two groups of marine mammals, though not closely related, sometimes share the same waters and the same prey. Researchers have documented instances of seals and dolphins swimming together, seemingly coordinating their movements, diving in tandem. Whether this is cooperative hunting or simply playful synchronization is difficult to determine, but the behavior suggests a level of social awareness that extends beyond the seal's own species. Dolphins are known for their playfulness, and seals seem to match that energy when the two meet. They chase one another, spiral through the water, breach the surface in what looks like a shared game. There is no competition here, no tension, just two intelligent species engaging with one another in the open ocean. Seals also display what can only be described as affection within their own groups. Mothers and pups maintain close physical contact during the nursing period, the pup often resting its head on the mother's body, the mother curling around the pup protectively. Even after weaning, young seals seek out contact with one another, huddling together in what researchers call weanling pods. These groups provide warmth, safety, and companionship as the young seals learn to navigate the world on their own. Touch is a language among seals. They nuzzle, they rest against one another. They use their flippers to gently pat or nudge. This tactile communication reinforces social bonds and provides comfort. In a world where much of life is spent in the cold, vast ocean, these moments of warmth and contact are vital. And beyond the social, there is the sensory world of the seal, a world shaped by adaptations that allow them to perceive their environment in ways quite different from our own. The whiskers, or vibrissae, are perhaps the most remarkable of these adaptations. Each whisker is rooted in a follicle rich with nerve endings, capable of detecting the slightest movement in the water. When a fish swims by, it leaves a trail of disturbance, a hydrodynamic signature that lingers for seconds or even minutes. The seal's whiskers can read this trail, following it through the dark water to locate prey that it cannot see. In experiments, seals have been blindfolded and still manage to track and capture fish with remarkable accuracy, relying entirely on their whiskers. This is not a secondary sense, a backup system. For many seals, especially those hunting in murky or dark waters, the whiskers are the primary means of navigation and hunting. The structure of the whiskers themselves is fascinating. Unlike the whiskers of many other mammals, seal whiskers have a unique undulating shape that reduces vibration and allows for more precise detection of water movement. This adaptation is so effective that engineers have studied seal whiskers to design more sensitive underwater sensors and more efficient submarine technology. Imagine moving through a world where touch extends beyond your body, where you can feel the presence of objects and creatures through the medium of water itself. This is the seal's reality, a sensory experience that is difficult for us to fully comprehend, but beautiful to consider. Seals also have excellent underwater vision, adapted to the low-light conditions of the deep ocean. Their eyes are large relative to their body size, and the retinas are packed with rod cells, which are sensitive to light and motion, but not to color. This means that seals see the underwater world primarily in shades of blue and gray, a monochromatic landscape that shifts and flows with the movement of water and light. The eyes also have a reflective layer called the tapetum lucidum, the same structure that makes a cat's eyes glow in the dark. This layer reflects light back through the retina, giving the photoreceptor cells a second chance to capture photons and effectively doubling the eye's sensitivity to light. In the dim waters of the deep ocean, this adaptation is crucial. On land, the seal's vision is less sharp. The round lens that focuses so well underwater does not adjust as effectively in air, leaving the seal somewhat nearsighted when hauled out. But this is a small trade-off for an animal that spends most of its life beneath the surface. The ocean is where the seal's senses are most finely tuned, where its body and mind are most at home. And then there is the seal's sense of hearing, another adaptation shaped by the demands of the underwater world. Sound travels faster and farther in water than in air, and seals have evolved to take advantage of this. Their ears are adapted to hear a wide range of frequencies, from the low rumbles of distant waves to the high-pitched clicks and whistles of other marine animals. Seals can locate the source of a sound with impressive accuracy, using the slight difference in timing and intensity between the two ears to triangulate position. This ability is essential for communication, for detecting predators, and for coordinating with other seals during group activities. Some species of seals produce complex vocalizations that vary by region, leading researchers to describe them as dialects. A seal in one colony may sound slightly different from a seal in another colony, even within the same species. These vocal variations are learned, passed down from one generation to the next, much like human language. Pups learn the calls of their mothers, and over time they develop their own unique voices while still retaining the characteristics of their colony's dialect. This suggests a level of cultural transmission, a sharing of information that goes beyond instinct. The young seal is not born knowing how to sound like its colony. It listens, it practices, it learns. This is culture in a very real sense, a social inheritance that shapes identity and belonging. And in the quiet moments, when the colony is at rest, the sounds soften. The loud barks and roars give way to gentle murmurs, soft grunts, the occasional sigh. It is the sound of contentment, of safety, of a group at ease with itself and its surroundings. Seals also engage in a behavior called spy hopping, where they lift their heads vertically out of the water to look around. This behavior is common in many marine mammals and serves multiple purposes. The seal may be checking for predators, looking for other members of its group, or simply observing the world above the surface. There is a curious, almost contemplative quality to spy hopping, the seal holding itself upright in the water, turning its head slowly from side to side, taking in the view. From the seal's perspective, the world above the waterline is a different realm, one where the rules of movement and sound are different. The air is thinner, sounds are sharper, and the horizon stretches out in a way that is impossible to see from below. Spy hopping is a way of bridging these two worlds, of gathering information that can only be obtained from the surface. And sometimes, seals spy hop simply because they can. There is no immediate threat, no pressing need. The seal rises, looks around, and then slips back down into the water. It is a moment of curiosity, a brief exploration of the boundary between sea and sky. Seals are also known to follow boats, not for food or out of fear, but seemingly out of curiosity. They swim alongside, keeping pace with the vessel, occasionally leaping through the wake. Sailors and fishermen have long noted this behavior, describing seals as playful companions on long voyages. The seals do not beg or scavenge. They simply swim, matching the boat's speed, riding the waves it creates. This behavior suggests that seals find the movement of boats interesting, perhaps even enjoyable. The wake creates turbulence and bubbles, patterns in the water that may be stimulating to an animal so attuned to hydrodynamic cues. Or perhaps the seal simply enjoys the company, the presence of another moving being in the vast ocean. There is also evidence that seals engage in what researchers call object play, interacting with items in their environment not for food or utility, but for the sake of interaction itself. Seals have been observed tossing pieces of kelp, batting at floating debris, carrying stones or shells in their mouths. These behaviors serve no obvious survival function. They are play, pure and simple. Play is often associated with intelligence and social complexity. Animals that play are animals that have the cognitive flexibility to engage with their environment in non-routine ways, to experiment, to explore. Seals, it seems, have this flexibility. They are not rigidly bound to survival behaviors. They have the capacity for curiosity, for joy, for the simple pleasure of interaction. And in some cases, seals have been observed playing with their food, not in a cruel way, but in a manner that suggests they are practicing or simply engaging with the object. A seal might catch a fish and then release it, catch it again, toss it into the air. This behavior is more common in young seals who are still learning to hunt, but it has also been seen in adults. It is as if the seal is exploring the possibilities of the moment, not driven by hunger, but by interest. Seals also exhibit what can be described as patience. When hunting, a seal may wait near a breathing hole in the ice for hours, knowing that a fish or another seal will eventually need to surface. This is not passive waiting. The seal is alert, attentive, ready to act. But there is no agitation, no visible frustration. The seal simply waits, trusting in the rhythms of the ocean and the behavior of its prey. This patience extends to other aspects of seal life as well. Mothers wait for their pups to nurse, to play, to rest. Seals in a colony wait for the tide to change, for the weather to improve, for the right moment to enter the water. There is a quality of acceptance in this waiting, a recognition that some things cannot be rushed. And perhaps this is one of the most calming aspects of observing seals. They do not hurry. They move through their lives with a steady, measured pace, responding to the needs of the moment without anxiety about the future. They are present in a way that is increasingly rare in the modern world. Seals also have a remarkable ability to thermoregulate, maintaining a stable body temperature in environments that would quickly lead to hypothermia in an unprotected human. The thick layer of blubber beneath the skin provides insulation, trapping heat close to the body. Blood vessels in the flippers and tail can constrict or dilate, controlling the amount of heat lost to the environment. When a seal is cold, these vessels constrict, keeping warm blood in the core. When a seal is warm, they dilate, allowing heat to radiate away. On land, seals sometimes appear to be overheating, panting, or waving their flippers in the air. This is a way of cooling down, increasing airflow over the body and releasing excess heat. The flippers, being thinner and less insulated than the rest of the body, are effective radiators. A seal lying on a sunny beach may hold its flippers up, letting the breeze cool the blood flowing through them. This ability to regulate temperature allows seals to thrive in a wide range of environments, from the icy waters of the Arctic and Antarctic to the more temperate coasts of California and the Mediterranean. Each species has its own adaptations, its own balance of insulation and heat dissipation, but all share this fundamental ability to maintain homeostasis in the face of environmental extremes. And in the coldest waters, where ice forms and the air temperature drops far below freezing, seals have evolved additional strategies. Some species give birth on ice floes. The pups born with a thick coat of white fur called lanugo that provides extra insulation during the vulnerable early weeks of life. This fur is eventually shed as the pup grows and develops its own layer of blubber. But in those first days, it is a crucial adaptation. The pups are born with their eyes open and are able to move almost immediately, though they are still dependent on their mothers for milk and warmth. The mother stays close, often lying beside the pup, her body providing a windbreak and a source of heat. The bond between mother and pup is strong, reinforced by frequent vocalizations and physical contact. And as the pup grows, it begins to explore, venturing a little farther from the mother each day, testing the ice, peering into the water. The mother watches, alert but not anxious. She knows the pup must learn, must develop the skills it will need to survive. But she is always nearby, ready to call the pup back if danger appears. This balance between protection and independence is delicate. The pup must be allowed to take risks, to make mistakes, to learn from experience. But the mother must also keep the pup safe, guiding it through the early weeks when it is most vulnerable. It is a dance of care and trust, played out on the ice and in the water, repeated in seal colonies around the world. And when the pup is weaned, when the mother finally leaves to return to her own feeding grounds, the pup faces the ocean alone for the first time. This is a moment of profound transition, a shift from dependence to self-reliance. The pup must now hunt, must navigate, must survive on its own abilities. And yet, it is not entirely alone. The skills it learned from its mother, the vocalizations it practiced, the play behaviors that built strength and coordination, all of these prepare the pup for this moment. The young seal enters the water, and the ocean receives it. The cold, the pressure, the vastness, all of it is now the seal's world. And the seal, shaped by millions of years of evolution, by the care of its mother, by the social bonds of its colony, is ready. Seals also engage in a behavior called bottling, where they float vertically in the water with just the top of the head and nostrils above the surface. This position allows the seal to rest while remaining alert, breathing easily without the need to actively swim. It is another example of the seal's ability to find efficiency, to conserve energy while still maintaining awareness of its surroundings. Bottling is often seen in deeper water, where the seal cannot rest on the bottom but still needs to sleep or recover between dives. The body hangs suspended, the flippers and tail drifting below, the head held steady at the surface. From a distance, the seal looks like a small buoy, bobbing gently with the waves. This behavior is particularly common in species that hunt in open ocean, far from shore. These seals may spend days or even weeks at sea, never hauling out on land, relying entirely on these floating rest periods to recover. It is a life of constant motion, constant engagement with the water, and yet there are moments of stillness, of quiet, woven throughout. And in these moments, the seal is at peace. The ocean holds it, the rhythm of the waves rocks it gently, and the seal simply exists, breathing, floating, being. There is no struggle here, no conflict, just this simple, profound act of living in harmony with the environment. Seals also have a remarkable ability to navigate over vast distances, returning to the same breeding sites year after year with impressive accuracy. How they accomplish this is still not entirely understood, but researchers believe that seals use a combination of cues: the position of the sun and stars, the Earth's magnetic field, the smell and taste of the water, the contours of the seafloor, and even the patterns of waves and currents. This is navigation at a level of complexity that rivals or exceeds that of many other animals. The seal does not have maps or instruments. It has only its senses and its memory, and yet it can travel thousands of miles and arrive precisely where it needs to be. Some species of seals undertake migrations that span entire ocean basins. They travel from feeding grounds in the open ocean to breeding sites on remote islands or ice floes, journeys that take weeks or months. And then, when the breeding season is over, they return to the feeding grounds, retracing their path across the featureless sea. This ability to navigate suggests a deep, intuitive understanding of the ocean, a knowledge that is both learned and instinctual. The seal knows the scene not as a blank expanse, but as a landscape rich with features and patterns, a place that can be read and understood. And perhaps this is part of what makes seals so captivating. They live in a world that is largely invisible to us, a world of currents and temperatures, of sounds and smells that we cannot perceive. And yet they navigate this world with confidence, with ease, with a kind of grace that speaks to a profound adaptation, a deep belonging. Seals also exhibit what researchers call site fidelity, a tendency to return to the same locations again and again. A seal may haul out on the same rock every day, rest in the same cove, hunt in the same stretch of water. This fidelity suggests that seals form mental maps of their environment, remembering places that are safe, productive, or comfortable. This behavior also reinforces social bonds. If a group of seals all return to the same haul-out site, they are likely to encounter the same individuals repeatedly, building familiarity and trust. Over time, these repeated interactions create a stable social structure, a community that persists even as individuals come and go. And within these communities, there are hierarchies and relationships, but they are generally not rigid or aggressive. Dominant seals may have preferred resting spots, and younger or smaller seals may defer to them. But conflicts are usually resolved through vocalizations or posturing rather than physical violence. The goal seems to be coexistence, the maintenance of a peaceful group dynamic that benefits everyone. There is something deeply reassuring in this. The seals are not constantly competing, not locked in a struggle for dominance. They share space, they tolerate one another, they find ways to live together. It is a model of social organization that prioritizes cooperation over conflict, community over individualism. And when a seal does display aggression, it is usually brief and ritualized. Two seals may face each other, open their mouths wide, vocalize loudly. This display is often enough to settle the dispute. One seal backs down, and the interaction ends. There is no prolonged fighting, no lasting animosity. The seals move on, returning to the business of resting, grooming, or playing. This ability to resolve conflicts quickly and move on is another aspect of seal behavior that feels calming to observe. The seals do not hold grudges. They do not dwell on past interactions. They live in the present, responding to the immediate situation and then letting it go. Seals also engage in grooming behaviors, though not in the same way as many other mammals. They scratch themselves with their flippers, rub against rocks or other surfaces, and occasionally use their mouths to clean their fur or skin. This grooming serves practical purposes, removing parasites and dead skin, but it may also provide sensory stimulation and comfort. In some species, seals groom one another, particularly mothers grooming pups. The mother may nuzzle the pup, licking its face and body, reinforcing the bond between them. This tactile interaction is soothing for both, a moment of connection and care. And even in the absence of grooming, seals seem to take pleasure in physical sensations. They roll in the sand, wriggle against rocks, stretch their bodies in long, luxurious movements. These behaviors suggest an awareness of the body, a capacity to feel and enjoy physical comfort. There's something universally relatable in this. The simple pleasure of a good stretch, the satisfaction of scratching an itch, the comfort of physical contact. Seals experience these things just as we do. They are not so different from us in their capacity for comfort and contentment. And as the seal settles into rest, as its breathing slows and its body relaxes, there is a sense of completion, of a cycle fulfilled. The seal has hunted, has played, has interacted with its colony. Now it rests, trusting in the safety of its environment, in the presence of others, in the rhythms that have sustained its kind for so long. This is the life of the seal, a life shaped by water and ice, by instinct and learning, by solitude and community. It is a life that moves between the depths and the surface, between the ocean and the shore, between action and rest. And in all of it, there is a quality of ease, of belonging, of being exactly where one is meant to be. The seal's relationship with its environment extends into the realm of temperature and season, where patterns emerge that speak to adaptation refined across millennia. In polar regions, seals encounter water that hovers just above freezing, temperatures that would prove fatal to most mammals within minutes. Yet these animals glide through such cold with apparent ease, their bodies wrapped in layers of insulation that transform icy water into a comfortable home. The blubber beneath their skin acts as both thermal barrier and energy reserve, a living blanket that can measure several inches thick in some species. This fatty layer doesn't merely insulate, it also provides buoyancy, helping seals float effortlessly at the surface when they choose to rest between dives. Beneath the blubber lies another adaptation that speaks to the seal's mastery of cold environments. Their circulatory system contains a network of blood vessels arranged in a pattern called countercurrent heat exchange, where warm arterial blood flowing toward the flippers passes alongside cool venous blood returning from the extremities. Heat transfers between these vessels, warming the returning blood before it reaches the core while pre-cooling the outgoing blood. This elegant system means seals can maintain flippers and tail at temperatures far below their core body heat, without losing precious warmth to the surrounding water. The physics of heat exchange becomes biology, and biology becomes survival. When seals haul out onto ice or rocky shores, they face the opposite challenge. Air, being far less dense than water, conducts heat away from the body more slowly, but direct sunlight can warm their dark fur and skin significantly. On bright days, you might see seals adopting curious postures, holding flippers up toward the sky or arching their bodies to minimize contact with hot surfaces. These positions allow air to circulate around their bodies, promoting cooling through convection. Some species have been observed moving to the water's edge and splashing themselves with flipper strokes, creating a temporary cooling effect through evaporation. The same animal that thrives in near-freezing water also knows how to manage the heat of a sunny afternoon on the rocks. The seasonal movements of seals follow patterns that align with food availability, breeding cycles, and ice conditions. Many species undertake migrations that span hundreds or even thousands of miles, traveling between feeding grounds and breeding beaches with remarkable precision. Harbor seals in some regions remain relatively sedentary, occupying the same general area year-round, while others make predictable seasonal shifts following the movement of fish populations. Elephant seals undertake some of the longest migrations of any mammal, spending months at sea in continuous foraging journeys before returning to specific beaches to breed and molt. These migrations are not frantic or hurried. They unfold as steady progressions through open ocean, the seals diving and surfacing in their characteristic rhythm, covering vast distances through accumulated small movements. Navigation during these migrations relies on multiple sensory systems working in concert. Seals appear to use the sun's position as a compass reference, adjusting their understanding of its arc across the sky as seasons change and latitudes shift. The Earth's magnetic field provides another reference point, detected through magnetoreceptors whose exact location in the seal's body remains a subject of ongoing research. Water currents, temperature gradients, and even the acoustic properties of different ocean regions may serve as navigational cues, creating a multisensory map that guides the seal across seemingly featureless expanses of water. Young seals often make their first migrations without parental guidance, suggesting that some aspects of the route are innate, written into their biology through generations of selection. The ocean itself changes with the seasons, and seals respond to these changes with behavioral flexibility. In temperate regions, Spring brings an increase in plankton blooms that support growing populations of small fish and invertebrates. Seals adjust their diving patterns and hunting locations to track these shifting food resources, sometimes concentrating in areas where currents or topography concentrate prey. Summer often sees seals spending more time hauled out, particularly during breeding and molting periods when their connection to land becomes temporarily more important than their connection to the sea. Autumn brings changes in fish migration patterns, and seals may shift their ranges accordingly, following salmon runs or the movement of schooling fish toward deeper or more southerly waters. Winter presents different challenges depending on latitude and species. In polar regions, the expansion of sea ice creates both obstacles and opportunities. Some seals, like Weddell seals, maintain breathing holes in the ice through constant effort, using their teeth to abrasion the ice and keep openings clear. This behavior allows them to remain in areas that would otherwise become inaccessible, hunting beneath the ice while surfacing to breathe at their maintained holes. The ice itself becomes a platform for rest, birthing, and nursing, a solid surface in an otherwise liquid world. Other species move away from forming ice, traveling to areas where open water persists throughout the winter months. The diet of seals varies considerably across species and seasons, but all share a carnivorous lifestyle centered on marine organisms. Fish constitute the primary prey for most seals, with species ranging from small schooling fish like herring and anchovies to larger individuals like salmon and cod. The hunting strategies employed depend partly on the prey's behavior. Schooling fish may be hunted by seals working cooperatively, though seal cooperation is typically loose and opportunistic rather than highly coordinated. The seal might drive fish toward the surface or into shallow water where escape becomes more difficult, sometimes benefiting from the presence of other seals doing the same, creating confusion among the prey. Cephalopods, particularly squid and octopus, form an important part of the diet for many seal species. These prey items present different challenges than fish, possessing intelligence, camouflage abilities, and in some cases, considerable size. Seals hunting squid often dive to significant depths where these animals concentrate during daylight hours. The squid's bioluminescence, used for communication and camouflage, may actually help seals locate them in the darkness of deep water. An octopus hiding in a rocky crevice presents a different puzzle, one that some seals solve through persistence, reaching into gaps with their muzzles or waiting for the octopus to move to a more vulnerable position. Crustaceans and other invertebrates supplement the diet of many seals, particularly those inhabiting coastal areas with rich benthic communities. Crabs, shrimp, and various shellfish are consumed, sometimes requiring the seal to use its teeth to crack hard shells or its claws to manipulate prey items. The Antarctic species that feed on krill join whales and penguins and harvesting these abundant small crustaceans, swimming through swarms with mouths open, filtering the krill through their teeth. This feeding style represents a different approach from the individual prey capture more typical of seal hunting, a testament to the adaptability of these animals to available resources. The amount of food a seal requires varies with body size, activity level, and environmental conditions. A large elephant seal may consume several dozen pounds of fish and squid per day during intensive feeding periods, building up the blubber reserves that will sustain it through breeding season when feeding ceases entirely. Smaller seals have proportionally higher metabolic rates and may need to feed more frequently, though they require less total food. During cold periods, energy demands increase as the body works harder to maintain core temperature, even with excellent insulation. Pregnant and nursing females face particularly high energy demands, requiring abundant food to support both their own needs and the rapid growth of their pups. Seals demonstrate food preferences that can be quite specific, sometimes focusing on particular species or or size classes of prey, even when other options are available. These preferences may relate to the nutritional content of different prey, the ease of capture, or simply learned hunting success. Young seals often show more varied diets than adults, perhaps still learning which prey items are most rewarding or accessible. Over time, individuals may develop specialized hunting techniques that work particularly well for certain prey types, and these successful strategies are then preferentially employed. The feeding ecology of seals connects them to broader ocean food webs in complex ways. As predators of fish and invertebrates, seals exert top-down pressure on these populations, potentially influencing their abundance and behavior. At the same time, seals serve as prey for larger predators, particularly sharks and killer whales, creating a middle position in the food web. The nutrients seals transport from the ocean to land through their bodies and waste products subsidize coastal ecosystems, enriching soil and supporting plant growth on islands and beaches where seals congregate. This bidirectional flow of energy and nutrients links marine and terrestrial systems in ways that might not be immediately apparent. The presence of seals can indicate ocean health in certain respects, as these animals require abundant prey and relatively clean water to thrive. Populations that decline or shift their ranges may signal changes in ocean conditions, prey availability, or other environmental factors. Conversely, recovering seal populations can indicate improving conditions or successful conservation efforts. Scientists monitor seal populations as part of broader ecosystem assessments, using data on seal numbers, health, and reproductive success to understand changes in marine environments. Individual seals within a population show personality differences that affect their behavior in consistent ways. Some individuals are bolder, more willing to approach novel objects or enter unfamiliar areas, while others are more cautious and conservative in their movements. These personality differences influence foraging strategies, with bold individuals perhaps more likely to explore new hunting grounds or try unfamiliar prey, while cautious individuals stick to proven methods and locations. Neither approach is universally better. Each has advantages depending on circumstances. In stable environments with predictable resources, cautious consistency may be rewarded. In changing environments, bold exploration might lead to discovering new opportunities. Play behavior in seals continues beyond youth into adulthood, though it becomes less frequent and perhaps more subtle. Adult seals have been observed engaging in what appears to be playful interaction with objects, other seals, and even other species. The function of adult play is less clear than juvenile play, which contributes to physical development and skill acquisition. Adult play might serve social bonding functions, stress reduction, or simply provide enjoyment, a concept that seems anthropomorphic but may have biological reality. The capacity for enjoyment, for engaging in activities beyond immediate survival needs, may itself be adaptive, promoting exploration and social cohesion. The vocalizations of seals serve multiple functions beyond the mother-pup recognition calls discussed earlier. Males of many species produce elaborate vocal displays during breeding season, underwater songs or above-water roars that advertise their presence and quality to females and rival males. These breeding calls can be remarkably complex, with patterns and structures that vary individually, allowing listeners to distinguish between different callers. The Weddell seal's underwater trills and chirps create an eerie, almost mechanical soundscape beneath Antarctic ice. The elephant seal's chest-thumping roar, produced by inflating the large proboscis, carries across beaches and serves as both threat and advertisement. Females also vocalize, though often less elaborately than males. Their calls during breeding season may indicate receptivity or rejection, helping to coordinate mating. Outside of breeding contexts, both sexes use vocalizations for various purposes. warning calls when predators approach, aggressive calls during disputes, and contact calls that help maintain group cohesion in the water. The acoustic environment of a seal colony is rich and varied, a soundscape of grunts, barks, trills, and roars that represents a complex communication network. The ability to hear and process these vocalizations requires sophisticated auditory systems. Seals hear well both in air and underwater, though the physics of sound in these two media differ substantially. Water conducts sound faster and farther than air, and the seal's auditory system adjusts for these differences. The middle ear of seals contains adaptations that allow it to function in both environments, including tissues that can fill with blood to change the ear's acoustic properties, depending on whether the seal is submerged or hauled out. The brain processes acoustic information rapidly, extracting meaning from complex, overlapping sounds in a noisy environment. The sense of smell in seals, while less studied than vision or hearing, plays important roles in certain contexts. Mother seals use scent to identify their pups, particularly in crowded colonies where hundreds or thousands of animals rest in close proximity. The olfactory signature of each pup is learned shortly after birth, adding another layer to the vocal recognition system. Males may use scent to assess female reproductive status, detecting chemical signals that indicate fertility. Seals also appear to use smell to identify suitable haul-out sites, perhaps detecting the scent marks of other seals or the general odor of a long-used location. Taste, though difficult to study in wild seals, likely plays a role in prey selection and assessment. The seal's tongue and mouth contain taste receptors that can detect chemical properties of food items. A seal that has captured prey can assess its quality before fully committing to consumption, potentially rejecting items that are diseased, toxic, or otherwise undesirable. The taste of seawater itself, with its dissolved salts and organic compounds, might provide information about location or water mass characteristics, though this remains speculative. The integration of all these senses creates a rich perceptual world for the seal, one quite different from human experience. Imagine perceiving your environment through the pressure waves detected by facial whiskers, through the acoustic landscape of clicks and calls traveling through water, through the visual field that shifts from sharp above-water focus to blurrier, but still functional underwater vision. Add to this the tactile information from skin, the sense of body position and movement, the detection of temperature gradients, and you begin to glimpse the seal's umwelt, its subjective sensory universe. Seals interact with human activities in various ways, some positive and many challenging. Fishing operations can conflict with seals when both target the same fish species, or when seals damage fishing gear while attempting to steal catch. These conflicts have long histories and have led to persecution of seals in some regions. More recently, efforts to develop non-lethal deterrence and management strategies attempt to reduce conflicts while allowing both fishing and seal populations to persist. The solutions are rarely simple, requiring understanding of seal behavior, fish ecology, and human economic needs. Pollution affects seals through multiple pathways. Persistent organopollutants accumulate in the fatty tissues of seals, reaching concentrations that can affect reproduction, immune function, and overall health. Plastic debris in the ocean poses entanglement risks and can be ingested, causing blockages or a false sense of satiation. Noise pollution from shipping, construction, and military activities may interfere with seal communication and navigation, though the extent of these impacts is still being researched. Efforts to reduce pollution benefit seals, along with countless other marine species. Climate change presents perhaps the most far-reaching challenge for seal populations, particularly those dependent on sea ice. As polar regions warm and ice extent decreases, seals that rely on ice for breeding, molting, and resting face habitat loss. Changes in ocean temperature and chemistry affect prey distributions, potentially creating mismatches between where seals expect to find food and where prey actually occurs. Some seal populations may adapt through behavioral flexibility or range shifts, while others may face population declines. The pace of change is rapid compared to the evolutionary timescales over which seals' adaptations developed. Conservation efforts for seals take many forms, from legal protections that prohibit hunting to habitat preservation and restoration. Marine protected areas can safeguard important seal habitats, including breeding beaches and key foraging grounds. Monitoring programs track population trends and health indicators, providing early warning of problems. Rescue and rehabilitation centers treat injured or sick seals, returning them to the wild when possible. Public education helps build support for seal conservation and reduces harmful interactions. The recovery of some seal populations following protection demonstrates that conservation can succeed. Species that were hunted to near extinction in some regions have rebounded when hunting ceased and habitats were protected. Northern elephant seals, reduced to perhaps fewer than 100 individuals in the late 1800s, now number in the hundreds of thousands. This recovery represents a conservation success story, though the population's low genetic diversity, a legacy of the bottleneck, remains a concern. Other species continue to struggle, their populations small and vulnerable to ongoing threats. Research into seal biology continues to reveal new insights into these animals' lives. Satellite tags that track movements over months or years show migration routes and diving patterns in unprecedented detail. Genetic studies reveal population structure and evolutionary relationships. Physiological research uncovers the mechanisms behind extreme diving abilities and other adaptations. Behavioral studies, both in the wild and in research facilities, illuminate the cognitive abilities and social dynamics of these animals. Each discovery adds to our understanding while often raising new questions. The intelligence of seals, though difficult to measure and compare across species, appears considerable. In controlled experiments, seals demonstrate learning abilities, memory, and problem-solving skills. They can learn to associate symbols with objects, to follow pointing gestures, and to understand simple rules. Their performance on certain cognitive tasks rivals that of dogs and other mammals known for intelligence. In the wild, the flexibility of seal behavior, their ability to adjust to changing conditions and to learn from experience, suggests cognitive sophistication shaped by the demands of their environment. Tool use, once considered a hallmark of advanced intelligence found only in primates and a few other groups, has been observed in seals in limited contexts. Some seals use rocks to crack open shellfish, holding the rock in their flippers and striking the shell. This behavior appears to be learned, passed from mother to offspring through observation and practice. While not as elaborate as tool use in some other species, it demonstrates that seals can recognize and employ objects to solve problems, expanding the category of animals known to use tools. The emotional lives of seals, though impossible to access directly, show signs of complexity. Seals form attachments to specific individuals, show signs of distress when separated from companions, and engage in behaviors that suggest pleasure and play. The neural structures associated with emotion in mammals are present in seals, and their hormone systems include the same compounds linked to bonding, stress, and pleasure in other species. While we must be cautious about projecting human emotions onto other animals, the evidence suggests that seals experience their own forms of affective states, feelings that motivate behavior and color experience. The bond between mother and pup represents perhaps the clearest example of emotional connection in seals. The mother's dedication to her pup, her distress when separated, and her recognition of her specific offspring among many others all suggest a powerful attachment. The pup's vocalizations when hungry or cold, its contentment when nursing, and its distress when alone indicate emotional responses to its circumstances. This bond, essential for the pup's survival, appears to be more than mere instinct, involving recognition, memory, and what might reasonably be called love, though we use that word carefully. Social bonds among adult seals, while less intense than the mother-pup bond, also show signs of preference and attachment. Seals that haul out together repeatedly, that rest in contact with specific individuals, or that appear to seek out particular companions demonstrate social preferences. These bonds may provide benefits beyond immediate survival needs, offering comfort, reducing stress, and creating a more complex social environment. The evolution of sociality in seals represents a balance between the benefits of group living and the costs of competition and disease transmission. The future of seals in a changing world remains uncertain, but not without hope. These animals have survived ice ages and warm periods, sea level changes, and ecosystem shifts over millions of years. Their adaptability, their wide distribution, and their generalist tendencies provide some resilience against change. Human actions will largely determine whether seal populations thrive, persist, or decline in coming decades. The choices made about fishing practices, pollution, climate change, and habitat protection will shape the oceans that seals inhabit. There is something deeply calming about contemplating seals in their ocean home, moving through water with such grace, resting on beaches in contentment, playing without apparent purpose beyond the joy of movement. These animals remind us that life takes many forms, that intelligence and emotion exist beyond human boundaries, that the ocean contains wonders we are still learning to understand. The seal's world is one of depth and darkness, of cold water and distant migrations, yet also one of play and rest, of mothers and pups, of communities gathered on familiar shores. The ocean holds patterns we are only beginning to understand, and seals move through those patterns with a kind of wisdom that speaks to millions of years of adaptation. Their lives are woven into the fabric of marine ecosystems in ways both obvious and subtle. And as we continue to watch them, we discover connections that reshape our understanding of what it means to thrive in the sea. Some seal species have developed relationships with specific types of prey that go beyond simple predation. Harbor seals in certain regions have learned to follow the seasonal movements of herring schools with such precision that researchers can predict seal locations by tracking fish populations. This relationship is not one-sided. The presence of seals influences herring behavior, causing schools to move in patterns that may actually increase their overall survival by spreading them across wider areas. The dance between predator and prey becomes something more complex than pursuit and escape. It becomes a dialogue written in movement and response. Seals possess a remarkable ability to adjust their hunting strategies based on prey availability and environmental conditions. In lean times, they expand their diet, sampling species they might normally ignore. In abundant times, they become more selective, choosing prey that offers the best nutritional return for energy expended. This flexibility is not random, but learned, passed through observation and experience. Young seals watch their mothers and other adults, noting which prey is pursued and which is passed by. Over time, they develop their own preferences, their own expertise. The whiskers of a seal can detect the wake of a fish that passed by 30 seconds earlier. This ability allows them to hunt in complete darkness, following trails invisible to any other sense. The hydrodynamic information captured by those whiskers is processed in a portion of the brain that has expanded over evolutionary time to accommodate this flood of tactile data. Each whisker connects to a dedicated neural pathway, creating a three-dimensional map of water movement that updates continuously. In this map, a seal can distinguish between the wake of a potential meal and the turbulence created by a drifting piece of kelp. Seals also demonstrate what researchers call anticipatory behavior, when hunting schooling fish. Rather than chasing the school directly, experienced seals will position themselves ahead of the school's likely path, waiting motionless until the fish swim within striking range. This requires an understanding of fish behavior, current patterns, and three-dimensional space that suggests sophisticated cognitive processing. The seal must imagine where the school will be, not where it is, and act on that prediction. In some coastal areas, seals have learned to exploit human fishing activities without becoming dependent on them. They follow fishing boats at a distance, knowing that nets being hauled up may release injured or disoriented fish. But they maintain their wild hunting skills, treating the boats as simply another feature of their environment, like a reef or a current that sometimes yields food. This balance between opportunity and independence speaks to their adaptability without indicating a loss of natural behavior. The social bonds between seals extend beyond mother and pup into networks that researchers are only beginning to map. Some individuals form long-term associations that last years, recognizing each other across seasons and migrations. These bonds are not based on kinship alone. Seals seem to form friendships based on compatible temperaments, similar activity patterns, or simply proximity over time. They haul out near each other consistently, vocalize in response to each other's calls, and show signs of distress when long-term companions disappear. In elephant seal colonies, some females return to the same section of beach year after year, not just to the same beach, but to the same few square meters. Over time, this creates neighborhoods of familiar individuals who recognize each other from previous seasons. These familiar groupings appear to reduce aggression and stress. Females in established neighborhoods spend less time in conflict and more time resting, which may improve pup survival rates. Male seals of many species show remarkable restraint in their interactions with pups, even pups that are not their own. Despite their size and strength, adult males navigate through nursery areas with care, avoiding crushing smaller animals. When conflicts do occur, they typically involve threat displays rather than physical contact. The males seem aware of the vulnerability of the young, adjusting their behavior in ways that suggest empathy or at least sophisticated social awareness. Seals also engage in what can only be described as mentorship. Juvenile seals often follow experienced adults during foraging trips, learning routes and techniques through observation. The adults do not appear to actively teach, but they tolerate the presence of youngsters and occasionally slow their pace, as if allowing the inexperienced to keep up. Over weeks and months, the juveniles become more skilled, eventually striking out on their own with a repertoire of techniques they could not have discovered alone. The communication systems of seals are more complex than the simple barks and grunts we hear from shore. Underwater vocalizations include clicks, trills, chirps, and long, modulated calls that carry for kilometers. Each species has its own vocal signature, and within species, regional dialects exist. Harbor seals in one bay may have subtly different call structures than harbor seals just 100 kilometers away. These dialects are learned, not innate, passed from generation to generation like cultural traditions. Some seal calls serve multiple functions simultaneously. A single vocalization might announce an individual's identity, indicate its emotional state, and warn others of a potential threat. The context in which the call is given, the surrounding vocalizations, and even the time of day all contribute to its meaning. Seals listening to these calls must interpret a complex web of information, much as we interpret tone, word choice, and body language in human conversation. Mothers and pups develop unique call signatures that allow them to find each other in crowded colonies where thousands of seals may be present. A mother returning from the sea can call out and receive an answer from her pup, among hundreds of others. The recognition is mutual and precise. Pups learn their mother's call within the first few days of life, and mothers learn their pup's voice with equal speed. Even when pups are moved experimentally to different locations within a colony, mothers find them by voice alone. The playfulness of seals appears throughout their lives, not just in youth. Adult seals have been observed engaging in games that serve no obvious survival function. They toss kelp back and forth, chase each other in spiraling patterns, and surf waves seemingly for the pleasure of it. Some researchers suggest that play in adults maintains social bonds, reduces stress, or keeps motor skills sharp. Others believe it may simply be enjoyable, a behavior that persists because it feels good and because seals, like many intelligent animals, seek stimulation and variety. In aquariums and research facilities, seals quickly learn to interact with enrichment objects, showing preferences for certain toys and inventing new ways to play with familiar items. They solve puzzles, manipulate objects to produce sounds or movements, and appear to enjoy the process of figuring things out. This curiosity extends to their interactions with humans. Seals in research settings often initiate games, bringing objects to researchers or performing behaviors that previously earned them attention, even when no food reward is offered. Wild seals occasionally approach swimmers and divers, especially in areas where they have not been hunted. These interactions are usually gentle and exploratory. The seal circles, makes eye contact, and sometimes reaches out with a flipper to touch the human. These encounters suggest that seals perceive humans as potentially interesting social beings rather than threats or prey. The interactions are brief, and the seal always maintains control, approaching and retreating on its own terms. Seals also show what might be called aesthetic preferences. In choosing haul-out sites, they select locations that offer not just safety and access to water, but also comfort. They prefer smooth rocks over rough, sunny spots over shaded ones in cool weather, and shaded spots over sunny ones when temperatures rise. They arrange themselves in positions that seem to maximize comfort, adjusting their posture throughout the day as the sun moves and the tide changes. The whiskers of a seal are not just sensory organs, but also tools for social communication. During close interactions, seals touch whiskers, a behavior that seems to convey information about identity and intent. Pups nuzzle their mother's whiskers, and adults engage in whisker-to-whisker contact during courtship and bonding. The sensitivity of these structures means that even the lightest touch conveys rich information. Seals have a remarkable ability to regulate their heart rate consciously. During dives, the heart slows dramatically, sometimes to just a few beats per minute. But this slowing is not purely automatic. Seals can adjust the degree of bradycardia based on the dive's demands. A short, shallow dive might involve only a moderate slowing, while a deep, extended dive triggers a more extreme reduction. This control suggests a level of physiological awareness and regulation that few animals possess. The eyes of seals contain a reflective layer called the tapetum lucidum, which enhances vision in low light by reflecting photons back through the retina a second time. This adaptation is common in nocturnal and deep diving animals, but seals have refined it to work across a wide range of light conditions. The tapetum can adjust its reflectivity, becoming more effective in darkness and less so in bright light, preventing the oversaturation that would occur if it reflected strongly in all conditions. Seals can see well both in water and in air, a rare ability that requires significant optical adaptation. The lens of a seal's eye is nearly spherical, much more so than in terrestrial mammals, which helps focus light in the denser medium of water. But the cornea, which does most of the focusing in air, is flattened. This combination allows seals to achieve reasonable focus in both environments, though their vision is sharper underwater. On land, their eyesight is somewhat nearsighted, but adequate for detecting movement and navigating terrain. The tears of seals are thick and viscous, providing protection against salt water and helping to keep the eyes moist during long periods at sea. These tears contain special proteins that prevent bacterial growth and resist the osmotic stress of seawater. On land, the tears sometimes overflow, creating streaks down the seal's face that can look like crying. This is not an emotional response, but a mechanical one, the result of tear production continuing without the washing action of seawater. Seals have a specialized gland near their eyes that excretes excess salt, allowing them to drink seawater without becoming dehydrated. This gland produces a highly concentrated saline solution that drips from the nostrils, expelling salt while retaining water. The efficiency of this system is remarkable. A seal can extract fresh water from seawater with less energy expenditure than the most advanced human desalination technology. The bones of seals are denser than those of terrestrial mammals, which helps them dive by reducing buoyancy. This increased density comes from a higher mineral content and a more compact bone structure. In young seals, the bones are less dense, which makes them more buoyant and may help them stay near the surface while they are still learning to dive. As they mature, their bones gradually mineralize, allowing them to dive deeper with less effort. Seals do not drink fresh water when it is available, relying instead on the water content of their prey and their ability to process seawater. Fish and squid are more than 70% water, and the metabolic breakdown of fats produces additional water as a byproduct. This metabolic water, combined with the water and prey and the seal's efficient kidneys, provides all the hydration they need. The kidneys of seals are highly specialized, capable of producing urine that is more concentrated than seawater, which allows them to excrete salt without losing water. The flippers of seals are not rigid, but flexible, with a bone structure similar to a human hand. The finger bones are elongated and connected by webbing, creating a broad, paddle-like surface. Seals can spread their digits or draw them together, adjusting the flipper's shape to optimize thrust or maneuverability. The flexibility of the flippers allows for fine control, enabling the precise movements needed to navigate complex underwater environments. In some species, the hind flippers can rotate forward, allowing the seal to walk on all fours on land. In others, the hind flippers are permanently oriented backward, making terrestrial locomotion more of a wiggling crawl. These differences reflect evolutionary trade-offs between aquatic efficiency and terrestrial mobility. Species that haul out on rocky shores or ice benefit from greater land mobility, while those that spend most of their time at sea prioritize swimming performance. The skin of seals is thick and tough, providing protection against abrasion, cold, and the teeth of predators. Beneath the skin lies a layer of blubber that can be several centimeters thick, serving as insulation, energy storage, and buoyancy control. The thickness of this blubber layer varies seasonally, building up before long migrations or breeding seasons when food may be scarce, and thinning afterward. Seals shed their fur annually in a process called molting. During this time, they spend more time on land, as the molting process is energetically expensive, and they prefer to conserve energy by not swimming in cold water. The old fur falls away in patches, and new fur grows in beneath it. Some species molt gradually over weeks, while others shed their entire coat in a matter of days. During the molt, seals may look ragged and patchy, but once complete, their new coat is sleek and vibrant. The coloration of seals varies widely, from the spotted patterns of harbor seals to the solid gray of elephant seals to the striking black and white of harp seal pups. These patterns serve different functions. Spots and mottling provide camouflage against rocky or sandy backgrounds. Solid colors may reduce visibility in open water. The white coats of harp seal pups provide camouflage against ice and snow, though this coat is shed after a few weeks, replaced by a darker juvenile pelage. Seals have a well-developed sense of smell, both in air and underwater. On land, they use smell to identify individuals, assess reproductive status, and locate their pups. Underwater, they can detect chemical cues that indicate the presence of prey, predators, or other seals. The olfactory bulb in a seal's brain is proportionally large, indicating the importance of this sense in their daily lives. The hearing of seals is acute across a wide range of frequencies. They can hear sounds from the deep rumbles of distant storms to the high-pitched clicks of echolocating dolphins. This broad hearing range allows them to monitor their environment continuously, detecting both opportunities and threats. Underwater, sound travels faster and farther than in air, and seals use this to their advantage. Listening for the sounds of fish schools, the calls of other seals, or the approach of predators. Seals can localize sounds with precision, determining the direction and distance of a sound source, even in the complex acoustic environment of the ocean. This ability relies on subtle differences in the timing and intensity of sounds reaching each ear. The brain processes these differences to create a spatial map of sound, allowing the seal to orient toward or away from the source without visual confirmation. The vocalizations of seals are produced by structures in the larynx and nasal passages. Air is moved back and forth between chambers, creating vibrations that are shaped into distinct sounds. Because seals must hold their breath while vocalizing underwater, their calls are often short and efficient, conveying maximum information with minimum air expenditure. On land, where breathing is not constrained, vocalizations can be longer and more complex. Some seal species produce calls that are audible to humans from great distances. The roars of elephant seal males can carry for kilometers across open beaches, serving as advertisements of size and strength. The trills and chirps of harbor seals are quieter, but no less important, facilitating communication in the dense acoustic environment of a haul-out site where dozens or hundreds of individuals may be present. Seals are capable of vocal learning, adjusting their calls based on the sounds they hear around them. This ability is rare among mammals and suggests a level of neural flexibility that underlies other forms of learning as well. Young seals learn the calls of their species by listening to adults, much as human children learn language. If a seal is raised in isolation or among individuals of a different species, its vocalizations may be atypical, lacking the normal structure and rhythm. The social structure of seal colonies varies by species, but most involve some degree of hierarchy and territoriality. Dominant individuals secure the best haul-out spots, those closest to the water or with the most comfortable surfaces. Subordinate individuals occupy less desirable locations, but conflicts are usually resolved through displays rather than fighting. A dominant seal may simply approach a subordinate, who moves away without contest. This system minimizes injury and energy expenditure. In some species, males establish territories during the breeding season, defending areas of beach or water where females congregate. These territories are not permanent, but are held only as long as the male can defend them. Younger or weaker males wait at the periphery, occasionally challenging the territory holders. When a male tires or is injured, another takes his place. The system is dynamic, constantly shifting as individuals gain or lose condition. Females often show site fidelity, returning to the same beaches or ice flows year after year to give birth. This fidelity is learned, not genetic. A female remembers the location where she was born or where she successfully raised a pup in the past, and she returns there because it proved safe and suitable. Over generations, this creates lineages of females who use the same sites, forming the core of stable colonies. The bond between a mother seal and her pup is one of the strongest in the animal kingdom. For species that nurse their pups for only a few days or weeks, the intensity of this bond is remarkable. The mother remains constantly vigilant, watching for threats and responding immediately to her pup's calls. She fasts during this period, drawing on her blubber reserves to produce rich milk, sacrificing her own condition to ensure her pup's survival. The milk of seals is among the richest of any mammal, containing up to 60% fat in some species. This extreme richness allows pups to grow at astonishing rates, doubling or tripling their birth weight in a matter of days. The high-fat content also provides insulation, building up the pup's blubber layer quickly so it can survive in cold water once weaning occurs. The mother's ability to produce such milk depends on the blubber she accumulated before giving birth, which is why adult females feed intensively in the months leading up to the breeding season. Pups are born with a strong swimming instinct, but they must learn the finer points of diving, hunting, and navigating. In the first weeks of life, they spend much of their time in shallow water, practicing breath holding and maneuvering. Their dives are short and shallow, gradually lengthening as their muscles and oxygen storage systems develop. Mothers do not actively teach these skills, but pups learn by watching and by trial and error. Weaning is abrupt in many seal species. The mother simply leaves, returning to the sea to feed and recover her condition. The pup is left alone, living off its blubber reserves while it learns to hunt. This period is dangerous. Many pups do not survive their first weeks of independence. Those that do emerge as competent hunters, having taught themselves through persistence and experimentation. In species with longer nursing periods, the transition is more gradual. The mother begins to take longer foraging trips, leaving the pup for hours or even days. The pup starts to explore on its own, entering the water and attempting to catch small prey. When the mother returns, she may still nurse the pup, but the frequency and duration of nursing sessions decline. Eventually, the pup becomes nutritionally independent, though it may remain near its mother for some time, benefiting from her presence and protection. Seals are capable of recognizing individual humans, distinguishing between those who have treated them well and those who have caused them stress. In research settings, seals show preferences for certain handlers, approaching them more readily and cooperating more willingly. This recognition is based on visual cues, scent, and voice, and it persists over time. A seal may remember a kind handler even after months of separation. The intelligence of seals is evident in their problem-solving abilities. They can learn to operate mechanisms, follow complex sequences of actions, and generalize learned behaviors to new situations. In experimental settings, seals have demonstrated an understanding of concepts like same and different, categorizing objects based on abstract criteria rather than simple stimulus-response associations. This cognitive flexibility suggests that their brains are capable of the kind of abstract thinking once thought to be unique to primates and cetaceans. Seals also show evidence of self-awareness, a trait associated with high intelligence. In mirror tests, some seals show signs of recognizing their own reflection, using the mirror to inspect parts of their body they cannot normally see. This behavior indicates an understanding that the reflection is not another seal, but an image of themselves, a cognitive leap that requires a concept of self. The long lifespan of many seal species allows for the accumulation of knowledge and experience. An old seal has survived decades of challenges, learning which areas are safe, which prey are easiest to catch, and how to avoid predators. This accumulated wisdom is not written down or spoken, but is embodied in the seal's behavior, its choices, and its movements. In social species, older individuals may serve as repositories of knowledge, their presence benefiting the group even when they are no longer reproductively active. The seal's relationship with its environment extends beyond survival and is something that resembles partnership. These animals don't simply inhabit the ocean. They participate in its rhythms, respond to its changes, and contribute to its balance in ways both visible and hidden. When a seal hunts, it doesn't deplete a fish population recklessly. Instead, seals tend to target weaker, slower, or sick individuals, inadvertently strengthening the genetic health of prey populations. This selective pressure has shaped the evolution of countless fish species over millions of years. The seal, in its daily search for food, becomes an agent of natural selection, a sculptor of ocean life. There's something deeply calming about this role, not predator in the violent sense, but participant in an ancient dance of balance. Seals also serve as indicators of ocean health, their bodies accumulating traces of whatever flows through the water around them. Scientists can study seal tissues to understand pollution levels, temperature changes, and shifts in prey availability. A healthy seal population often signals a healthy ecosystem. When seals thrive, it suggests that fish populations are stable, that water quality remains good, that the intricate web of ocean life continues to function. Conversely, when seal numbers decline or when individuals show signs of malnutrition or disease, researchers pay attention. These animals become messengers, carrying information about conditions in places humans rarely visit: the deep channels, the remote coastlines, the shifting currents far from shore. The bones of seals tell stories that stretch back through time. Archaeologists have found seal remains in ancient human settlements spanning thousands of years, evidence of a relationship between our species and theirs that predates recorded history. Indigenous peoples of the Arctic, the Pacific Northwest, and other coastal regions developed deep cultural connections with seals, viewing them not merely as resources, but as beings worthy of respect and gratitude. Traditional hunting practices often included ceremonies acknowledging the seal's sacrifice, rituals ensuring that every part of the animal would be used, and stories passing down knowledge about seal behavior through generations. This relationship was sustainable precisely because it was built on observation, patience, and reverence, qualities that allowed both humans and seals to coexist for millennia. Modern science continues to reveal layers of complexity in seal cognition that earlier researchers never suspected. Recent studies have shown that seals can learn through observation, watching other seals solve problems and then applying those solutions themselves. In one experiment, harbor seals observed a trained individual manipulating a puzzle box to access food. Later, when given access to similar boxes, the observing seals solved the puzzles significantly faster than seals with no prior exposure, demonstrating clear social learning. This ability to learn from others suggests that seal populations may develop local traditions, specific techniques, or preferences passed down not through genetics, but through culture. A group of seals in one bay might develop a particular fishing strategy that differs from another group's approach, each population carrying its own accumulated wisdom. The concept of seal culture remains an area of active research, but the evidence grows more compelling with each study. Scientists have documented regional differences in vocalizations that can't be explained by genetics alone, suggesting learned dialects. They've observed seals in certain locations using tools, rocks or shells to crack open hard-shelled prey, while seals of the same species elsewhere don't exhibit this behavior. They've recorded instances of apparent teaching, where experienced seals seem to deliberately demonstrate techniques to younger individuals, waiting patiently while the learner attempts to replicate the action. These observations paint a picture of seal societies as dynamic, adaptive, and information-rich, each generation building on the knowledge of those who came before. The seal's brain structure supports this cognitive complexity. The cerebral cortex, responsible for higher-order thinking, is well-developed and folded, increasing surface area and processing capacity. The hippocampus, crucial for spatial memory and navigation, is proportionally large, reflecting the seal's need to remember vast territories and navigate through three-dimensional ocean space. The regions associated with social cognition show significant development, consistent with the complex social lives these animals lead. Neurological studies have revealed that seal brains produce similar patterns of activity during sleep as human brains, including phases that might correspond to dreaming. We can't know what a seal dreams about, but the possibility alone invites gentle wonder. Perhaps they revisit the day's dives, rehearse hunting sequences, or simply experience the sensation of gliding through water, their sleeping minds replaying the movements that define their waking lives. Seals experience a phenomenon called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep when in water, where one half of the brain sleeps while the other remains alert. This allows them to maintain awareness of their surroundings, continue swimming, and surface to breathe, all while obtaining the rest they need. The sleeping hemisphere shows characteristic slow brain waves, while the wakeful hemisphere maintains faster activity patterns. The two hemispheres take turns, ensuring that over time, the entire brain receives adequate rest. This split brain sleeping represents one of nature's most elegant solutions to the challenge of being a mammal in the ocean, a creature that needs both sleep and air, in an environment where stopping completely could mean drowning or drifting into danger. On land, seals can afford to sleep more deeply, both brain hemispheres resting simultaneously. Their sleep cycles include REM sleep, the phase associated with vivid dreaming in humans. During these periods, you might see a seal's flippers twitch, its whiskers move, its eyes shifting beneath closed lids. The body is temporarily paralyzed during REM sleep, a safety mechanism preventing the sleeper from acting out dreams, but small movements still occur. Watching a seal in REM sleep offers a glimpse into the private world of another consciousness, a reminder that the subjective experience of being alive extends far beyond our own species. Whatever passes through a seal's dreaming mind, it emerges from the same ancient neural architecture that produces our own dreams, a shared inheritance from our distant common ancestors. The relationship between seals and humans continues to evolve. In some parts of the world, seals have become habituated to human presence, approaching divers in boats with curiosity rather than fear. These interactions, when conducted respectfully, reveal the seal's playful and inquisitive nature. Divers report seals tugging on fins, investigating cameras, and engaging in what appears to be play, swimming in loops around the diver, presenting objects, or initiating games of chase. These encounters suggest that seals, like dolphins and other intelligent marine mammals, may seek out novel experiences and social interaction beyond their own species. The seal's willingness to engage with humans, when not threatened or harassed, speaks to a fundamental openness, a cognitive flexibility that allows them to assess individual situations rather than responding with blanket fear or aggression. Conservation efforts have transformed the fate of many seal populations. Species that were hunted to the brink of extinction have, in some cases, made remarkable recoveries following legal protections. The northern elephant seal, reduced to perhaps fewer than 100 individuals by the late 19th century, now numbers in the hundreds of thousands. The Hawaiian monk seal, still critically endangered, has seen population stabilization and modest growth thanks to intensive management efforts. These success stories demonstrate that when humans choose to prioritize conservation, meaningful recovery is possible. The ocean can heal, populations can rebound, and species can step back from the edge of extinction, but only with sustained commitment, adequate resources, and the political will to enforce protections. Yet challenges remain. Climate change alters the seal's world in ways both obvious and subtle. Warming waters shift the distribution of prey species, forcing seals to travel farther or dive deeper to find food. Melting sea ice reduces the habitat available to ice-dependent species like harp seals and ringed seals, compressing breeding areas and potentially increasing pup mortality. Ocean acidification affects the entire marine food web, from the smallest plankton to the largest predators, with consequences that cascade through ecosystems in ways scientists are still working to understand. Seals, positioned as they are in the middle to upper levels of marine food webs, integrate these changes in their bodies and behaviors, their populations serving as living barometers of ocean health. Plastic pollution presents another persistent threat. Seals encounter plastic debris throughout their range. Discarded fishing gear, bottles, bags, microplastics suspended in the water column and concentrated in their prey. Young seals, curious and inexperienced, sometimes become entangled in plastic loops or netting, the material cutting into flesh as the animal grows. Others ingest plastic fragments, mistaking them for food or consuming them inadvertently when eating contaminated fish. These plastics can block digestive tracts, leach toxic chemicals into tissues, and accumulate over time. Their effects subtle but cumulative. The presence of plastic in seal bodies reflects a larger truth about the modern ocean, that human activities leave traces everywhere, even in the most remote waters, and that no marine creature, no matter how far from human habitation, remains untouched by our industrial civilization. Despite these challenges, seals persist. Their adaptability, honed over millions of years of evolution, serves them well in a changing world. Populations shift their ranges in response to temperature changes. Individuals modify their diving patterns when prey distributions change. Mothers adjust their nursing strategies when food becomes scarce. This flexibility doesn't guarantee survival. Some changes may occur too rapidly for adaptation to keep pace, but it offers hope. Seals have weathered ice ages and warm periods, sea level changes, and ecosystem shifts. They carry within their genes the legacy of ancestors who survived previous eras of transformation. Whether that legacy will be sufficient for the challenges ahead remains an open question, one that depends as much on human choices as on seal adaptability. The study of seals continues to reveal surprises. Researchers recently discovered that some seal species can detect magnetic fields, using Earth's magnetic signature as a navigational aid. The mechanism remains unclear, whether specialized cells containing magnetic crystals, as found in some birds, or some other sensory system, but the ability itself seems well established. Seals fitted with tracking devices have demonstrated navigation accuracy that exceeds what could be explained by visual landmarks, sun position, or even star patterns alone. They return to specific locations across vast distances, sometimes traveling through waters they've never previously visited, suggesting an internal map calibrated to magnetic coordinates. This hidden sense adds another dimension to our understanding of how seals perceive their world, another reminder that their experience of reality includes information entirely invisible to human senses. Seals also show surprising vocal learning abilities, a trait once thought to be rare among mammals. Young seals don't simply inherit their calls genetically. They learn them, listening to adults and gradually refining their own vocalizations to match the sound around them. This learning process resembles, in basic structure, the way human infants learn language, beginning with babbling and progressing through stages of increasing accuracy and complexity. Harbor seals raised in captivity have learned to mimic simple melodies, matching pitch and rhythm with remarkable precision. While seals don't develop language in the human sense, their capacity for vocal learning suggests underlying neural flexibility, a brain capable of mapping heard sounds to produce sounds and adjusting motor control to match the two. This ability likely facilitates the development of regional dialects and may play a role in individual recognition within colonies. The seal's whiskers, or vibrissae, represent one of the most sophisticated tactile systems in the animal kingdom. Each whisker connects to a follicle rich in nerve endings and blood vessels, encased in a structure that amplifies even tiny movements. When a whisker encounters water disturbance, the wake left by a swimming fish, the current deflected by a rock, the pressure wave from a distant splash, it bends slightly, and that movement translates into neural signals. The seal's brain processes these signals, constructing a tactile image of the surrounding water. Experiments have shown that blindfolded seals can track the path of a toy submarine based solely on its wake, following trails through the water with their whiskers the way a bloodhound follows scent through air. This ability allows seals to hunt effectively in complete darkness, in murky water, or at depths where sunlight never penetrates. The structure of seal whiskers differs from that of most mammals. While dog or cat whiskers are smooth, seal whiskers have an undulating surface, a wave-like pattern along their length. This unusual structure reduces the vibrations created by the seal's own movement through water, effectively minimizing self-generated noise that might otherwise overwhelm the subtle signals from prey or obstacles. It's a form of hydrodynamic stealth, allowing the seal to move its head and scan the environment without creating interference. Engineers have studied seal whiskers as inspiration for underwater sensors, hoping to replicate this noise-canceling design in artificial systems. The seal's whiskers, shaped by millions of years of evolution, represent a solution to sensory challenges that human technology is only beginning to appreciate. Seals exhibit something that might be called patience, a quality that serves them well in an environment where food availability fluctuates. During periods of abundance, seals feed heavily, building up blubber reserves. When prey becomes scarce, they can reduce their metabolic rate, living off stored energy for extended periods. Lactating females demonstrate this most dramatically, fasting for weeks while nursing pups, their bodies mobilizing fat reserves to produce milk while they themselves consume nothing. This ability to endure scarcity, to wait through lean times, reflects a life history shaped by unpredictability. The ocean doesn't provide constant plenty. Fish populations surge and crash, currents shift, seasons change. Seals, in their physiology and behavior, embody a response to this variability, not fighting against it, but accommodating it, building flexibility into their very metabolism. The social structure of seal colonies shows fascinating complexity. While not organized into rigid hierarchies like some primate societies, seal groups display recognizable patterns of association and preference. Certain individuals consistently haul out near each other, suggesting friendship or kinship bonds that persist across seasons. Mothers and their grown offspring sometimes maintain associations for years, occasionally hauling out together, even after the offspring has reached full independence. These enduring relationships hint at emotional connections that extend beyond immediate reproductive needs. Seals seem to derive comfort from familiar companions, choosing to rest near individuals they know rather than strangers, even when space is plentiful and there's no obvious practical advantage to proximity. Conflict within seal colonies, while it occurs, is generally resolved without serious injury. Aggressive displays, open-mouthed threats, vocalizations, posturing usually suffice to establish boundaries and settle disputes. Physical contact, when it happens, typically consists of brief, pushing or shoving rather than sustained fighting. This restraint makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. Injuries are costly, risking infection, reducing mobility, and potentially proving fatal. Natural selection has favored individuals capable of defending their interests without incurring unnecessary damage. The result is a society where conflicts are common, but usually ritualized, where most individuals spend most of their time in peaceful coexistence, conserving energy for the real challenges of finding food and avoiding predators. Young seals engage in play fighting, behavior that resembles genuine aggression but lacks its intensity and consequences. Pups wrestle with each other, mouths open but bites inhibited, learning the physical skills and social signals they'll need as adults. This play serves multiple functions. It builds muscle strength and coordination. It teaches the rules of seal social interaction, and it may help establish early relationships that persist into adulthood. The playfulness of young seals, their apparent enjoyment of these mock battles, suggests that the behavior is intrinsically rewarding. Natural selection has made play feel good because play serves important developmental purposes. The seal pup wrestling in the shallows isn't thinking about future benefits. It's simply engaging in an activity that brings satisfaction, guided by ancient neural circuits that reward behaviors promoting survival and social competence. Adult seals also play, though less frequently than juveniles. They've been observed tossing objects, seaweed, shells, pieces of driftwood, catching them and tossing again, with no apparent purpose beyond the activity itself. They surf in waves, riding swells toward shore and then swimming back out to catch another, repeating the behavior for extended periods. They chase each other through kelp forests, weaving between stalks in what looks like aquatic tag. These behaviors don't contribute directly to survival. They burn energy, consume time, and offer no immediate reward. Yet seals engage in them anyway. The persistence of play into adulthood suggests that it serves functions beyond juvenile development. Perhaps it maintains social bonds, relieves stress, or keeps cognitive and physical skills sharp. Or perhaps, in some fundamental way, seals play simply because they can, because their intelligence and behavioral flexibility allow for actions beyond the strictly necessary. The seal's relationship with kelp forests illustrates the interconnectedness of ocean ecosystems. Many seal species favor kelp forest habitats, using the dense vegetation as shelter, hunting ground, and nursery. Seals hunt fish that feed on kelp grazing invertebrates, and by controlling these fish populations, seals indirectly influence kelp health. Meanwhile, sea otters, where they occur, eat sea urchins that would otherwise overgraze kelp. The relationships form a web of interactions where each species affects multiple others, and changes in one population ripple through the entire community. Seals exist not in isolation, but as threads in this larger tapestry, their well-being tied to the health of kelp, the abundance of fish, the presence of predators and competitors. Understanding seals means understanding these connections, seeing them not as separate entities, but as participants in ongoing ecological conversations. Seals communicate through multiple channels simultaneously. A vocal call might be accompanied by a specific posture, a particular head angle, a pattern of whisker positioning. These multimodal signals convey richer information than any single channel alone. A low-frequency rumble combined with an open-mouthed display and forward-leaning posture communicates threat more effectively than any one element in isolation. A high-pitched call paired with relaxed body language and whiskers held in neutral position might signal something entirely different. Perhaps greeting, perhaps playfulness, perhaps simply announcing presence without aggression. Seals reading these combined signals can respond appropriately, assessing intention and likely behavior based on the full suite of information available. The seasonal movements of seals follow patterns established over generations. Individuals return to the same haul-out sites year after year, sometimes to the exact same rock or beach section. This site fidelity suggests strong spatial memory and perhaps emotional attachment to particular locations. A seal that has successfully raised pups at a specific site, that has found the waters nearby productive for hunting, that has survived storms and predators in that place, has good reason to return. The familiar offers advantages, known escape routes, established relationships with neighbors, proven resources. Yet some individuals, particularly young seals, strike out for new territories, exploring unfamiliar coastlines and potentially establishing new haul-out sites. This balance between fidelity and exploration allows seal populations to maintain productive traditional sites while also discovering new opportunities as conditions change. The molt represents a vulnerable period in the seal's annual cycle. As old fur loosens and new fur grows, the insulating properties of the coat temporarily decline. Seals often haul out for extended periods during molt, reducing time in cold water and minimizing heat loss. They may appear disheveled, with patches of old fur hanging loose, skin showing through in irregular patterns. Despite the somewhat bedraggled appearance, this process is essential. The new fur will provide better insulation, and shedding the old coat removes accumulated parasites and damage. Seals emerge from molt with sleek, fresh coats, their appearance transformed. The molt timing varies by species and location, often synchronized within populations, so that most individuals undergo the process during the same general period, possibly reducing individual vulnerability by ensuring that predators encounter many molting seals rather than being able to focus on isolated vulnerable individuals. Seal pups are born with soft, fluffy coats called lanugo in some species. This natal fur provides insulation during the vulnerable early weeks, but isn't suitable for swimming. Pups must molt this first coat before entering the water regularly, developing the adult-type fur that maintains its insulating properties when wet. The timing of this first molt varies. Some species complete it within days of birth, others take weeks. During the transition, pups remain primarily on land, dependent on their mothers for warmth and nutrition. The mother's milk, extraordinarily rich in fat, fuels rapid growth and provides the energy needed for both body development and fur production. By the time the pup is ready to swim, it has transformed from a helpless newborn into a capable young seal, equipped with the physical tools needed for aquatic life. The diversity of seal species reflects adaptation to different ecological niches. Leopard seals, powerful predators of the Antarctic, hunt penguins and other seals, their large size and strong jaws enabling them to take prey that smaller seals couldn't manage. Crab-eater seals, despite their name, feed primarily on krill, using specialized teeth that act as sieves, filtering tiny crustaceans from the water. Bearded seals forage on the seafloor, using their sensitive whiskers to detect buried invertebrates in soft sediment. Each species has evolved specific adaptations: body size, tooth structure, diving capability, sensory specializations that allow it to exploit particular resources. This specialization reduces competition between species sharing the same waters, each focusing on different prey or hunting in different ways. The ocean's productivity supporting multiple seal species through ecological partitioning. The evolutionary history of seals remains a subject of active research and some debate. Molecular evidence suggests that all pinnipeds, seals, sea lions, and walruses share a common ancestor that returned to the ocean roughly 23 to 28 million years ago. This ancestor was likely a bear-like or weasel-like carnivore, a terrestrial predator that began exploiting coastal resources and gradually became more aquatic. The transition from land to sea required profound changes. Limbs modified into flippers, body streamlined, respiratory systems adapted for diving, sensory systems recalibrated for underwater perception. The fossil record preserves some intermediate forms, animals with features partway between terrestrial carnivores and modern seals, offering glimpses of this extraordinary transformation. These fossils remind us that seals haven't always existed in their current form, that they represent one of evolution's most dramatic experiments in adaptation, a lineage that returned to the ocean and thrived there. Modern seals continue to evolve, though the process operates too slowly for us to observe directly except through genetic analysis. Populations separated by geography gradually accumulate genetic differences, and over sufficient time, these differences might result in new species. Climate change and human impacts accelerate some aspects of natural selection, favoring individuals with traits that allow them to cope with altered conditions. Seals that can tolerate warmer waters, find food in changing ecosystems, or avoid human threats may leave more offspring, their genes becoming more common in future generations. Evolution doesn't stop. It continues in every generation, shaping seal populations in response to the world they inhabit. The seals of the future, if they persist, may differ in subtle or significant ways from the seals of today, their forms and behaviors reflecting the selective pressures of a transformed ocean. The intelligence of seals manifests not in human-like reasoning, but in forms appropriate to their ecological needs. They excel at spatial navigation, remembering complex, three-dimensional territories. They demonstrate sophisticated hunting strategies, adjusting techniques based on prey behavior and environmental conditions. They recognize individuals, maintain social relationships, and learn from experience. They solve novel problems, manipulate objects, and show curiosity about their environment. These cognitive abilities don't make seals almost human. They make seals fully themselves, intelligent in seal-relevant ways, their minds shaped by the specific challenges and opportunities of life as a marine mammal. Appreciating seal intelligence means recognizing that cognition takes many forms, that there are multiple ways of being smart, each adapted to different ways of life. The seal's eye contains a reflective layer called the tapetum lucidum, positioned behind the retina. Light that passes through the retina without being absorbed bounces off this reflective layer and passes through the retina again, effectively giving photoreceptors a second chance to capture photons. This adaptation enhances vision in low light, allowing seals to see in conditions that would leave humans effectively blind. The tapetum lucidum also creates the eyeshine visible when light strikes a seal's eyes at night. The reflected light glowing with an eerie green or gold luminescence. Many nocturnal and deep-diving animals possess this adaptation, a common solution to the problem of seeing in darkness, evolved independently in multiple lineages. The seal's glowing eyes, glimpsed in the beam of a flashlight, reveal the presence of this hidden structure, this biological mirror amplifying scarce light. Seals possess remarkable healing abilities, recovering from injuries that might prove fatal to other mammals. Shark bite wounds, deep lacerations, infections, seals survive trauma that would overwhelm many creatures. Their immune systems function effectively in cold water, fighting off infections despite conditions that would slow healing in most mammals. The blubber layer, while primarily serving thermoregulation and energy storage, also provides cushioning that protects internal organs from impact. The seal's blood clots quickly, minimizing blood loss from wounds. These healing capabilities reflect the harsh reality of life in the ocean, where injuries are common and veterinary care unavailable. Natural selection has favored individuals with robust immune systems and efficient healing, those capable of recovering from the inevitable accidents and encounters that mark a life spent hunting, diving, and navigating rocky coastlines. The seal's whiskers grow continuously throughout life, replacing themselves as older whiskers are lost or damaged. This continuous renewal ensures that the seal always possesses a full complement of functional sensors. The growth pattern of whiskers carries information. Periodic variations in growth rate create visible bands in the whisker structure, somewhat like tree rings. Researchers can analyze these bands to reconstruct aspects of the seal's history, including periods of nutritional stress or abundance. A whisker becomes a biological record, encoding months or even years of the seal's life in its structure. This technique allows scientists to study seal physiology and ecology in ways that don't require invasive procedures, the shed or naturally lost whiskers providing windows into individual life histories. Communication between mothers and pups includes tactile elements often overlooked in favor of more obvious vocalizations. Mothers nuzzle pups, using their whiskers to explore the pup's body, perhaps assessing condition and health through touch. Pups press against their mothers, seeking warmth and reassurance, the physical contact itself conveying safety and connection. These tactile interactions strengthen the bond between mother and pup, creating associations between touch and comfort that may persist throughout the pup's life. The importance of touch in seal social behavior extends beyond the mother-pup relationship. Adults in close proximity often make casual physical contact. A flipper resting on a neighbor, bodies pressed together during hauling out, gentle bumping during swimming. These touches, seemingly incidental, may serve important social functions, maintaining bonds and reducing tension within groups. The seal's cardiovascular system includes specialized structures that manage blood flow during dives. The aorta, the main artery leaving the heart, is unusually elastic and expandable in seals. During a dive, as the heart rate slows and blood pressure rises, the aorta expands, storing blood like a pressure reservoir. This stored blood continues to flow to essential organs even as the heart beats less frequently, maintaining oxygen delivery while reducing the heart's workload. The system functions like a hydraulic accumulator, smoothing out the pulsatile flow from the heart into a more continuous stream. This adaptation, along with the others that enable diving, represents engineering of extraordinary sophistication, each element precisely calibrated to enable seals to thrive in an environment fundamentally hostile to air-breathing life. Seals inhabit a world of gradients. Temperature gradients between warm surface waters and cold depths, light gradients from bright shallows to dark abyssal zones, pressure gradients from atmospheric pressure at the surface to crushing pressures in the deep. They navigate these gradients constantly, their bodies sensing and responding to changes in temperature, light, and pressure. The ability to perceive and interpret these gradients allows seals to orient themselves, to know whether they're ascending or descending, to recognize water masses and currents. The ocean, seemingly uniform to human perception, reveals itself to seals as a landscape of invisible contours, each gradient carrying information about location, depth, and direction. The future of seals depends on choices made far from the ocean. Decisions about carbon emissions affect ocean temperature and chemistry. Policies regarding plastic production and waste management determine how much debris enters marine environments. Regulations on fishing practices influence prey availability and bycatch rates. Protected area designations provide safe havens where seals can breed and rest without disturbance. International agreements govern hunting and trade. These human decisions, made in legislatures and corporate boardrooms, in individual households and international conferences, collectively shape the world seals inhabit. The fate of these animals rests not primarily on their own adaptability, impressive though it is, but on humanity's willingness to consider impacts beyond immediate human interests, to value ocean health and the creatures that depend on it. Yet seals persist, adaptable and resilient, continuing their ancient patterns even as the world changes around them. They dive into cold water, hunt through kelp forests, haul out on rocky shores. They nurse pups, play in waves, vocalize to one another across the water. They sleep with one eye open, navigate by senses we barely understand, and survive in conditions that would kill humans within minutes. They embody millions of years of evolutionary refinement, each aspect of their biology and behavior honed by natural selection. They are, in every sense, perfectly themselves, not striving to be anything else, not aware of their place in the grand scheme of evolution or ecology, simply living as seals have always lived, meeting each day's challenges with the tools inheritance and experience provide. Watching seals reminds us that intelligence and awareness take many forms, that the capacity for play and curiosity extends beyond humanity, that the ocean teems with lives as rich and complex as our own, though expressed in utterly different ways. A seal surfacing to breathe, water streaming from its whiskers, eyes scanning the horizon, exists in a moment of awareness, sensing, perceiving, experiencing. What that experience feels like from the inside, we can never truly know. but we can recognize it as real, as valuable, as worthy of consideration and protection. The seal's consciousness, however different from our own, represents another way of being alive, another perspective on the world, another thread in the vast tapestry of earthly life. The ocean at night, when seals hunt in darkness, holds a particular stillness. The surface reflects starlight, breaking into fragments with each ripple. Below, in the black water, seals move with confidence, their whiskers detecting currents and wakes, their eyes gathering what little light penetrates from above. They exist in a world we can barely imagine, a realm of cold and pressure and darkness. Yet they thrive there. They find food, avoid danger, navigate vast distances, all in conditions where humans would be instantly lost and quickly dead. This capability, this mastery of an alien environment, speaks to the power of adaptation, the way life finds purchase in even the most challenging conditions, the manner in which evolution shapes bodies and minds to fit the world they inhabit. As you rest now, perhaps your mind holds images of seals, their streamlined forms gliding through kelp, their spotted coats drying in the sun, their large eyes watching with gentle curiosity. These animals, so different from us in form and habitat, nonetheless share with us the fundamental experience of being alive, of navigating a complex world, of forming bonds and raising young, of playing and resting and simply existing. The ocean they inhabit continues its ancient rhythms, waves rising and falling, tides advancing and retreating, currents flowing through the darkness. And within that ocean, seals live their lives, each individual a brief manifestation of an ancient lineage, each life a small miracle of adaptation and survival. The facts and details shared here represent only a fraction of what might be said about seals. Science continues to reveal new aspects of their biology and behavior, each study adding to our understanding, each discovery raising new questions. The seal remains, in many ways, a mystery, a familiar animal that nonetheless holds secrets, an inhabitant of a world we visit briefly, but where they dwell completely. That mystery need not be solved entirely. There is value in knowing that much remains unknown, that the ocean holds depths we haven't plumbed, that seals possess capabilities we haven't yet discovered. The incomplete nature of our knowledge invites humility, reminds us that our understanding is always partial, always provisional, always open to revision as new information emerges. If you're still awake, still following these thoughts as they wind through the darkness, you might consider one more image: a seal asleep on a rock, body relaxed, breathing slow and steady, utterly at peace in its environment. The seal doesn't worry about tomorrow's hunt, doesn't replay past mistakes, doesn't project itself into an uncertain future. It exists fully in the present moment, resting when rest is possible, active when activity is required, its life unfolding according to patterns both ancient and immediate. There's something to learn from this way of being, this presence in the moment, this acceptance of the world as it is. The seal cannot change the ocean's temperature or the abundance of fish or the presence of predators. It can only respond, adapt, and continue living as fully as circumstances allow. The stories of seals continue beyond this moment, beyond these words. Tomorrow, seals will dive into cold water, will hunt and play and rest. Pups will be born, will grow, will eventually venture into the ocean themselves. Populations will shift and change, responding to conditions both natural and human caused. Researchers will continue their work, tracking seals, analyzing data, publishing findings that expand our understanding. And the ocean will continue its endless motion, waves breaking on shores around the world, tides pulling at coastlines, currents flowing through the deep. Within that ocean, seals will persist, living their lives largely unseen by human eyes. Their existence a testament to the richness and complexity of life on Earth. Your breathing has perhaps slowed as these words have unfolded, your body settling into rest, your mind drifting between waking and sleep. This is as it should be. The facts about seals, the details of their lives, have served their purpose, not to demand memorization or test comprehension, but simply to provide a gentle focus, a stream of information flowing through consciousness, carrying you gradually towards sleep. The seals themselves rest now, somewhere in the world, on rocks or beaches or floating in the water, their own consciousness dimmed in sleep, their bodies recovering from the day's exertions. You share with them this moment of rest, this necessary pause, this surrender to sleep's embrace. If more stories would help you rest, they exist, ready to unfold when you need them. But for now, this exploration of seal lives draws to its close. The ocean continues, the seals continue. Life continues in all its myriad forms. And you, listener, can let these thoughts fade, can release your hold on wakefulness, can allow sleep to come naturally and completely. The world will be here when you wake. The ocean will still roll. The seals will still dive and surface, hunt and play, live their lives in the cold water and on rocky shores. Everything continues, and you can rest now, knowing that the great patterns persist, that life goes on, that the world is larger and richer than any one consciousness can hold. Rest now. Sleep well. The seals are sleeping too, somewhere beneath the stars, and all is well.